So welcome everybody to January 2022 ADHD support group meeting. And tonight I'm very excited to learn. So tonight I'm going to learn from two coaches. Leanne is ADHD and Oliver's and ADHD too. And Oliver's actually doing the ADHD coach training course with us. So I'm going to hand over to Anita. Anita's going to you can't do that. We can all see you. We can all see what you did.
I think we should just start, Trace. We're not going to have time.
Okay.
So, hi, everyone. Let's get started.
Okay, cool. So Leanne is a business coach as well, and she's ADHD. She was a patient of Dr. Jeeva's, like most of us, and she's going to be talking tonight about the Focus app. So welcome, Leanne, and thank you for sharing.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Tracy. This is a work in progress. I was diagnosed in September, and I've just found this app, but it seems to be working for me so far. So I'm just going to share screen. All righty. So I'm just going to talk to one specific app, and Oliver's going to take you through options of various apps a little bit later. This app is called FocusToDo. It's Chinese. There's a paid and a free version. I'm not seeing the necessity for the paid version at the moment, so off I go. But it's early days. You're not going to see a heck of a lot on my actual app because I decided to put it onto my laptop last night. I've been using it on my phone. So the FocusToDo is an app that brings the Pomodoro technique and your to-do list into one place so that you can, plan tasks, manage tasks, focus on work and study, track your working hours. And this has become really important for me, as particularly so early on my ADHD journey, to understand how long I need to allocate, because I often think I've got more time. And sometimes I'm actually pretty fast at certain things. And I didn't know that about myself, of course, with time blindness. So what's the Pomodoro technique? It's a time management method developed by Francesco Cirillo in the 1980s. He was at varsity and he was trying to find a way to study and stay focused and take breaks. And he happened to have this Pomodoro, which is tomato in Italian, timer in the kitchen. And he'd set it to 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break. So each interval, the 25 minutes, for example, although you don't have to do 25 on the app, each interval is known as a Pomodoro. Voila, I'll move on. Just in terms of the benefits, task management. In terms of task management, it's a task organizer, a schedule planner, a reminder, a habit tracker, a time tracker. Further benefits, recurring tasks, so you can build lasting habits with recurring due dates. I don't know, Tracy, can we build? I don't know if I can build lasting habits yet because I'm so early in the journey, but I hope. Subtasks, break down your task into smaller actionable items. And as we know, many of us struggle with, often with task initiation, at least I do, in terms of not starting for many reasons, as in ADHD, but also because it seems so overwhelming. So now that I can plug a project in and break it down into subtasks, I can get something started. Okay. Or in terms of subtasks, you can also simply add a checklist. Further benefits, task priority. So highlight your day's most important to do with color-coded priority levels. I struggle with prioritization. Everything feels equally important. Okay, and I don't know what to choose. So I live in hope. Estimate the workload or set a goal. So again, I can estimate how much time I may need for a particular task and start learning what that looks like for me, and set goals. And then in terms of reporting, this is really cool. And I don't have much yet because I just switched on to the Mac version last night, although it does talk to my phone, but it's another story. You get detailed statistics of your time distribution and completed tasks. So like even just over the last 2 days, to be able to look at how much work I'm actually doing, when my focus time occurs, over time, I'll be able to identify trends. There we go. So how to use FocusToDo. I'm just going to go into mine. So you're going to see a little bit of my work. Oopsie. Okay, so this is not the primary dashboard, but it's one of them. And you can see some of the tasks that I've had today, etc. I thought I could just quickly buzz through creating a new task, just so that you can kind of see what it's like. So we can go straight to there and just create a task on its own, but I think it's a little more interesting to add a project. Okay, and since I train and coach and facilitate, I'm just going to call this one customer service. Okay, and I'm going to give it a label. What I've done, I'm not going to take you through my labeling system. It's just going to bore you. Okay. So customer service is the task, is the project, and I can now add tasks. So let's say, for example, just for expediency, I need to do some research. Okay, how long do I think it will take me? These Pomodoros are set to 25 minutes each. Okay, so once I go live, I'll focus for 25 minutes, get a 5-minute break. But you can set them at whatever you wish, both the tasks and the breaks. So let's say that one task is research. The other one is I have to create a slide pack. And then let's say I have to send slide pack for review. All right. So what I do in terms of the research, if I think it's going to take me, oopsie, for each of these tasks, I can set up how long things are going to take me. But to be honest, I'm so recently diagnosed and I'm so recently using this app, as in a couple of days, that I'm not sure yet. Okay, so what I would do is I would start. Sorry, let's just put a date in for this. Okay, so in terms of the research, I'm not going to do it because I think it's just going to waste time, but I'm able to put in a due date, okay, a reminder, a repeat if it's something I have to do, etc. And I can even add subtasks to this. Okay, so in terms of my research portion, what does that look like? I can break it down even further. So I can have my headline project, a bunch of tasks, and each of those tasks can be broken down further. But let's say I've popped the date in, etc., and it's on the day and I'm ready. I'm going to go into research and I'm going to start my Pomodoro. Okay, and while I'm working, this is happening in the background. It's timing the 25 minutes. What I'm not able to show you now is that when the 25 minutes are over, there's an alert, okay, and you can actually pick the sound of your alert, which is pretty cool. You then go into a break, comes up with 5 minutes, you start your break, and after the 5 minutes, you get another alert and you go on to the next Pomodoro. Of course, in the beginning, I did find myself walking away in the middle of a Pomodoro. Okay, like, Lee, you're in the kitchen, honey, and you're supposed to be focused at your desk. So that's a bit of discipline that's starting to build up. What I also find is I tend not to want to take the breaks. Perhaps I need to adjust the timing of some of the Pomodoros, or perhaps I just need to discipline myself in terms of taking breaks. And I have set up options regarding how I can use the breaks. There's a rebounder behind me. Do I want to rebound? Do I want a cup of coffee, or more healthily a glass of water, go outside for a bit, whatever the case is, and then come back and get cracking. And once the break is over, I simply go into another Pomodoro, and at the end of the day, it's tracking all of them. So perhaps by the end of the day, I'll be able to see that I've spent 4 Pomodoros at 25 minutes each on research. Okay, just a few other things. There is a premium option. And as I said, I haven't seen the need for a paid for version yet, but you can see it's pretty cheap. The only thing is it's Chinese, and you might have to get your bank to allow you to make that purchase. These are the stats, okay? So this is going to become very exciting over time as I'm able to track how I'm using my time and what my productivity looks like. These are notifications that I can pop in, and settings. I'm not going to bore you there. You'd be able to, if you're interested in looking at the app, go and have a look. Maybe they should pay me for doing this. What's really cute, I haven't found it on the Mac version yet, but it's on the phone, is, and I think it's so beautifully typical of the Chinese, is that there's a little garden. So as you score, you know, you get through the Pomodoro, you finish it, you complete a task. That's the other thing you also indicate when you've actually completed tasks. It gives you different levels of oxygen, and there's this little garden that grows. So you start seeing the screen full of flowers, which for me, I think is lovely, really motivating. And the last thing I'd like to say is just every time I kind of finish a Pomodoro or a break, I'm definitely experiencing a little dopamine rush. I'm really enjoying the challenging of the challenge of trying to get this right. Voila, that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Leanne. That was beautiful. Any questions, anybody? That was really cool. Thank you.
One question, Leanne. Is your version on your phone synced to your MacBook, or is it two separate apps?
Well, I didn't check that out properly before I put it on my Mac last night.
Okay.
So I created a different account on my Mac and then realized that they can sync. And what's pretty cool is I've got a Mac computer and an Android. And it's just the login. It's just logging into the correct account, and then they're synced automatically.
Okay, cool.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Leanne. That was awesome. And now we hand over to Oliver. Thank you, Oliver.
Hello, hello. Thumbs up if you can hear me. I had to change location. Oh, lots of thumbs. This is good stuff. All right, let's get into it because there's quite a bit in some senses. You should all be able to see what I'm doing now. I'm not, provided I can finally find where I need to go. I think that's it. Let's see. Ooh, it started me at the wrong place. Everyone look away. Just give me 20 seconds to go all the way to the, okay, amazing. We're back. Okay, so my ADHD journey started about midway through 2020, and I think I fall in towards the end of the millennials, and then I think a year after me, you become what they call a Gen Z or a Gen Y. In this case, I spend a lot of my time on my computer, and I enjoy IT a lot. I am always studying, so I always have to be at a computer, and I figured there's probably a better way of trying to get myself to do the thing and make myself move forward. So the point of this presentation is sort of to give you all an idea of what is out there that you can use at home, and to try and make your 2020 yours, not let it make you it. You know, we don't need 2022 again. So without further ado, let's get into it. So one of my big problems is time management. I can't seem to get it right, and I have no idea why. I'm very time blind. 5 minutes feels like 5 hours, and 5 hours feels like 5 minutes. Prime example, I did most of this presentation today because I thought I had more than enough time, and I almost did not. So how can we manage this? Well, for me, one of my big things is that I don't quite understand how time works. And this is where this beautiful app sort of comes into play. I don't know, can you see my mouse pointer? Then I don't have to pull up a laser.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so the way,
Thank you.
so the way it always works, unfortunately for now, it's only Android. It's not Android inclusive. For now, it's for the Mac users and Apple users, but it's a completely free app that you can get on your phone, and it allows you to sort of understand time, because all that is over here, this is sort of the representation of what time is in a 24-hour clock. I don't know why it works better than other things like a diary, but it's what I found quite cool is that I could actually I could put wedges in based on where my needs were, and I couldn't make a wedge smaller than 15 minutes. And if you look on the side over here, these are all the different categories of things that you're going to do. So what O-Waves does is it basically put down what life is to a whole bunch of different, what they call vitals. So things like doing things you love, doing exercise, working, cooking, sleeping, relaxing, playing around. There's also one for what they call flow, so moments where you don't have any structured time. And what you do is you'll click and you'll drag this into your respective clock, and it also syncs with your calendar, by the way. So if you have something that syncs with your calendar, it'll tell you, and you can confirm or deny it, and then you put a wedge in for that. what this does is it makes it very, very visual for you to know, okay, right now I'm doing this, right now I'm doing that. And because it links with various smartwatches, the best is to use an Apple smartwatch, but I use a Garmin and I get on quite fine, is that it actually tracks with you. So for example, I've allocated this amount of time to sleeping. It will actually show that I have slept over here with the secondary line, and then same thing with exercise and mindfulness. It doesn't do that with eating and working, obviously, because it can't measure that accurately. But the idea is to show you where you're at, how much time you've got. It's incredibly visual, and it's very, very, very user-friendly, and it's free. So why not? Now, the second thing I struggled with, particularly to try and get my ADHD stuff going, is the thing called is routine building. So I went into a very big rabbit hole, and you're going to see 3 different habit building apps. The reason being that this one off the bat can be quite expensive. Also, before I do continue, I will send this presentation to Tracy to share with all of you, so you can get the links and so on, because it's a lot of content to go through.
Thank you.
So what Brilli does essentially is there's 2 versions. The initial version looks like this, and this is for kids. So for the parents that are attending this talk, this is the one you want, because what you can do is you can set up your child's routine. You also set up a reward system so that when they've completed it, they come show you and you can give them a reward. And it basically turns boring life into a lot of fun. I personally enjoy it because it's got a lot of preset things inside. So for example, this is what it looks like on my day. This is what you call a cockpit. So in the cockpit, they will give you a daily quote, something nice, and they'll show you what you need to do, as well as it gives you sort of a small incentive. Now, as you complete various tasks, so for example, my good morning routine would comprise of me waking up, making my bed, having coffee, and going for a walk. What will happen is I will start that routine, and it'll only show me what I need to do at that particular moment. So in this case over here, so I need to make my bed. I have 10 minutes to do that, and it keeps on reminding me how much time I have left. So if I have about 5 minutes, it sends me an alarm saying, you only have 5 minutes, you only have 30 seconds. So it's very audible, it's very visual. And you can ask Anita, she's been trying it out over the weekend. It's really, really good. The only downside of it is that it is quite expensive. So on a student discount, I could get about 30% off, and it would cost me 650 Rand for the year as a subscription. But you can also get a monthly and a bi-annually subscription. To be honest, I've recently inquired if we can't get sort of like a bulk umbrella license so that everyone can use it with Tracy. But I will get back to you once I hear a reply for that. But overall, this is definitely one of my favorites to do. I was in a fortunate position, but this is why there's a few of them to try out, or that I'm going to introduce you today. The other thing that we can use for routine building is an app called Habitica. So we live in a world where gaming is a very big thing. And I mean, why not turn your life into a game as well? So for example, as you can see here, you earn rewards through completing to-do tasks. You can set out your to-do list. You can set out your daily routines as well. And you can set out the habits that you want to perform. And by completing various of these tasks, you can earn money inside the game. So it's not real money, but it's that type of thing. So as you can see here, this person, Aiden H, he chose to be a mage. He has 65 coins to spend. And as a parent, you can then say, okay, using those 65 coins, he can buy an hour at the television and show you he's allowed an hour at the television, or he can buy things to build his character up. It also becomes quite fun because in the game, you can actually go and take on various different bosses like this. So with friends, you collectively go and you play online and you can earn more coins and so on and so forth. The cool thing is Habitica is free. This is why we included it. And it's available across platforms, much like Brilli. But I didn't play too much around with this because for me, I enjoyed Brilli enough to not worry about it. But this is quite cool for those that enjoy gaming, that want to make life a little bit more fun. And as you'll see with most of these apps, the best things that you can do is just see what works for you, because what worked for me might not work for you as well. The last version that I would like to introduce you to of a habit forming app is it's a very, very beautiful app called Fabulous, or The Fabulous. And the idea behind it is you sort of go on a journey of self-discovery, and that's you sort of playing this nondescript character, if you want to put it that way. And the idea that Fabulous builds upon is research that was conducted at Duke University. And what they do is they start you off with a small habit. So what they focus on is micro habit building. So your first task to get into being a habit and repeating 3-4 times is something as simple as drinking 1 glass of water in the morning when you start your day. So that way you start building a routine that you can then build further off of. One mistake, for example, I found when I started the whole routine building thing is I tried to do far too much in far too little time. So instead of just focusing on one habit, getting it good, moving on to the next, like most ADHD brains, I was like, okay, I want to go to bed at 10, wake up at 6, do work from this time to this time, make sure I have a cup of coffee, run 6 times a week. It eventually, because you've overloaded yourself, you end up not doing any of it, and then you're back at square one. So what this one at least does, which is quite nice, is it helps you with all of this. And you, from what I remember when I did use it, also gave a few, it gives you certain pictures that you can download, things like yoga to do in the morning for 10 minutes and how to do various other things. It also gives you a whole bunch of motivational stuff, challenges. So it is a really beautiful and fun app. Some people may find it a little bit slow. Again, there is a subscription fee to this. There is a limited capacity for free availability, but I haven't ventured too much in that. Like I say, I found my favorites already. Now that we've worried about time management, we cannot turn into productivity. One of the biggest things that I was hit by once COVID hit was my master's thesis almost went to the dogs because I could not sit still long enough to do what I needed to do. Because we've now got increased screen time, it's far easier to get distracted on YouTube than ever. You aren't allowed to run outside. And ultimately, I developed a very bad YouTube addiction. Which is great because it gave me all of these wonderful apps that I can now show you. But the downside is it's forced my what was supposed to be 2 years into almost a 4-year master's degree, and a lot of other things between. So I figured let's try and get everyone on a good start with regards to work, schoolwork, and see how this helps. So along with what was focused on the other one, with the Pomodoro counter, very, very essential. You will also see a few other things in this. Now, the first, it sounds very strange to be advertising Microsoft Office 365, but I cannot say how many times it saved my backside, simply because if you, unlike when you have, say, you've got the license for Microsoft Word, or you have the license for PowerPoint or whatever, by having access to the whole suite, what happens is you get access to Office's cloud. And it means that you can turn on autosave because we don't always remember to save. I suffered this 3 days ago when I logged on, ready to submit my next chapter, and 7 pages of my writing had disappeared because I didn't save it. So what this does is 2 things. One, you can continuously save onto the cloud. So you can save space on your computer. You have access to the basic stuff that most industries use, from Microsoft Word to PowerPoint to Access for those that want. You've got your email client, you've got Excel for those that are working in industry. And the cool thing is, one thing most people I don't think know is that once you have the autosave feature on, you can actually go back and look at various different versions. So for example, having my chapter on my cloud means that it can go and say, okay, looking at the various versions and changes you've made, on the 31st of December, this is what your document looked like, this is what it looks like today, and you can compare and contrast, because as we write, things change. So it allows you a historical view versus a continual hard save of your documents over and over and over again, ultimately losing your potential ideas, but also meaning that if you do accidentally delete and save, you can still go back, which is thankfully what I can do with one of my chapters. So it is a very, very good tool, and it's probably used across most schools. For most university students, I don't know how many are attending, your varsities will probably already have a subscription for you under an umbrella license, so you don't have to pay anything. For the parents with students, maybe speak to the schools and see if they don't have that same capacity. Because that way you're not really paying for it, you're paying for it via your school fees or things like that. So for example, I get full access to all of these and I don't pay a cent. I suppose I do indirectly because I pay my uni fees, but it allows a lot of other flexibilities and usabilities within your day-to-day work. Now, another big one, which is also very good, very much similar, is Evernote. I'm sure everyone attending this talk at some point saw an ad for Evernote, be it in an app or on a website or even on YouTube, as I can attest to. But it really, really is a good app. And if you're a student, you tend to get a very good deal. So for most of these apps, if you're a student, email them. They tend to give you really nice deals. Like I'll explain another really cool one later. The cool thing with Evernote, aside from the fact that it works similar to Microsoft Office, where I can work on my phone, because that's where I'm working easier today. Because one thing I found doing my honors is I couldn't always sit and think at my computer. I needed to work on my phone. Sometimes I needed to write things down. It all depended on what worked for the day. And in a world where we are so stimulated by screens and essentially locked into our offices, that degree of flexibility, instead of having it work against us, Evernote allows you to work it for you. So for example, you can take better notes, you can do a whole bunch of planning. They give you a whole bunch of templates, from essay writing to sorting out your calendar. But it also, one thing they don't tell you is when you're in class and you're taking notes, it can actually record the lecture for you. And if I remember right, it even takes it into text. I know there are other apps that also do this, where while you sit and record, because you might not be an audible learner, you might need to read things, it'll record the lecture for you, you can read the text, and then Bob's your auntie. You can also attach certain files to various notes, you can attach pictures and so on, which makes it really, really cool. The other thing is that, like Senna, you enjoy doodling, and you've made this incredible doodle. It's going to make you billions of rands, maybe billions of Zim dollars. But the cool thing is Evernote has a built-in scanner. So a lot of us use an app called Cam Scanner or something along that like. I found with Evernote, I can at least do this, and then I automatically attach it to my workbook. So I can attach to a whole series. So if, for example, I've made class notes in my lecture and I've said, okay, this is Botany 101. I need to put this into Botany 101, rather than having a whole bunch of papers that I'm going to probably forget, lose, burn, or turn into a new doodle. I can just save it directly into my book. Then my notes are there. And it allows you to search your handwriting as well, which means that if I have handwritten a note and it can read your handwriting, I don't think it reads my Sanskrit, but if you can read it, it's a big bonus. You might have killer ideas and you're like, I can't remember where I put this. Instead of going through your diary, it saves you a lot of time. And it also prevents you from going down further rabbit holes, which we are all very prone to do. Now, the cool thing is the app is quite universal. It links between Mac, Android, Windows. It's not platform specific. They've designed it so that it is commutable. However, I do find the free version very, very limiting, because it does limit your amount of upload and download. But you can buy a paid version as well. But obviously do this at based on what you need. Most of these things also do offer a free trial. So try the trial out and see if it works for you. If it does, perfect. If it doesn't, you haven't spent, like I have, a few hundred rands to try and find something that works. Now, that's cut off, my apologies. So unlike most neurotypical brains, we don't like rules. In fact, we like to break them, because we want to know that we're independent. And for me, a diary is the biggest waste of money. I've tried so hard to use a diary. I can't use it. I can't schedule it. It's bossy. It's just not for me. So instead of using my diary, I instead use a thing called bullet journaling, which is a very cool method developed by a guy with ADHD also. he had tons of ideas coming out left, right, and center. But when you put them down in his diary, you can remember which date he'd put them on, which is a problem if you're coming up with the next Nobel Peace Prize idea. And the other thing is, it was too rigid. He needed flexibility. So if I draw on page A or page B, it doesn't matter. And the way the Bujo system works, so I'll call it Bujo, I think Graham can start attesting to it soon because he's also started to play around with it, is you basically have a blank book. You can grab any book. This is what makes it cheap. All you need is a book and a pen and a little bit of imagination if you really want to get cool. The simplest version of a Bujo is what I'm going to show you now, and you can tailor it to your needs, but people get really, really artsy with it and they make it really cool. Best advice for Bujo, start small and start simple. And if you want to and it works for you, instead of spending hours making the most beautiful cover page, then you can do that. That's the nice thing. It's a very flexible arrangement. So the way it works is you start off with an index, which is what you don't have in normal stuff, well, in normal diaries, and you number your pages. It sounds very boring, but if you do it in sets of 10, you should be relatively okay. So you write your index and you have your pages numbered, and then from there you can then do things. You write down what you call your future log. So what your goals are for the various months. So in this case, April, the person wanted to pick up a guy from the airport. And you can always refer back to the future log to see what you need to do in case you forgot why we're in April and what's supposed to be happening. Now, from there, you get what you call a monthly log. So it's basically what we do have in a calendar, but it is a lot more flexible. And what you do is you write the days of the month all the way down, and you don't have a lot of space. And the reason is so that you write only the bare essentials, and then you can elaborate further on the opposite page based on what there is. And that's the entire cool thing about it. It's quick to put ideas down. It saves you a lot of content, and you tailor make your key to what you need. So every Bujo has a key. So you can have tasks as a start that makes you feel happy. I tend to stick with just a good old bullet point. So you have a task. If you need to take down a note because you had a killer idea, you take down the note. If it's an event, you can have a circle, a square, or whatever suits your fancy. Now, the cool thing about the Bujo system is it's very, very, very quick. It saves a lot of time. So when a task is complete, you simply put a crossover. When you haven't completed the task, but it needs to happen and you're going to do it tomorrow because you promised yourself you're going to do it. We all know you're not going to, but we can all hope. I've been doing this for my chapter writings for the past couple of months. You just put an arrow over there. Ooh, whoops. You put an arrow over there, and then you know, okay, I've got to move that to the next day. So that's still going to happen. I can't just relieve it. But I mean, if you continue to do this and you're just not finishing what you require, you can add it. You can put a mark like that, and then you know that's going to go to my future log. So if I didn't complete everything in February, but I can do it in March, and I'm going to try and do it in March, I just do that. So the whole point of the bullet system is it is incredibly flexible. So I would really recommend doing that. So what I've included over here is a link to the original guy's website, but also a really good resource over here on how to do it in a really fun YouTube channel. She's helped, well, the person that runs the How to ADHD channel is incredible in her videos, and I've really learned a lot about myself. And this is also where a lot of these tips are going to be coming from. So the next thing to talk about is how do we prioritize tasks? Because everything on our mind is urgent, or we'll get to it later. So to answer Lee's question, this is a very good method, and what they do is they call it an Eisenhower Matrix. And Eisenhower Matrix works such that, sorry, there's a very bad photo. I thought it would be a little bit better. Is it divides basically your page into 4 quadrants, and you have a scale of urgency and importance. Now, if something is urgent and important, that means it's happening here and now. That's what you've got to focus on. If something's urgent but not quite important, we call them ibnus. Well, no, important, not urgent, we call them ibnus. They go into a quadrant over here. So you know that if you have some time, you can go there. If they're urgent, if they are urgent but not important, you get them done then and there in this quadrant over here. And if they fall into neither category, like something like I need to learn how to play the bassoon, that would go into there. I don't need to learn a new instrument. So the really cool thing about this app, unfortunately, it is Mac specific, but it sort of integrates across your various devices. So unfortunately, because Apple likes to steal money, you have to buy it as an iOS app and a Mac app. But what it does do is it integrates with your calendar as well. So what I found really nice is I can set due dates here. And if something's not too urgent, it's important, but not too urgent, I can set a due date for when it gets switched from whichever category all the way into my urgent stock. So then I know for the day what I need to achieve. And it links to a Pomodoro counter. In this case, this website uses this is called Be Focused. And this also then links across your phone, which I have found quite useful because then you have a visual, well, you can see time pass by. For me, really does this already automatically because I've set my workflow so that I automatically have a Pomodoro set in there. And in fact, it does come as a default thing. But in this case, these 3 apps do work really well. I will include the link here. While he was presenting, I figured, let me quickly pop this in because I have played around with that. And this works quite nicely as to how to structure and figure out what to do next. Now, I think this is the last one I'm going to show you about productivity, but it is a really nice app, particularly for students. So as ADHD brains, we have a very busy mind and we do enjoy brainstorming, or I found brainstorming to be quite useful. And this is where the app Miro comes into play. And what I enjoy about Miro is you have an infinite amount of space to play around. So I can make it wider and wider and wider and wider, which I found with a lot of other brainstorming apps, you have a limited size. And if, for example, where I'm dealing with my thesis, I have a lot of information that I need to concatenate. And I found Miro is a very good resource for that because in this case, what Miro does is it gives you a blank workspace. So all of this I've sort of set up, and its core focus is to be a brainstorming app. It's very visually appealing, but you can do a lot of stuff. But the other cool thing it does is it allows you to work together as a team. So if, for example, you have you and Tracy have decided, this week I need to do X, Y, and Z. You can then use this for her to see where your progress is or where your thinking is. A lot of companies have started to make their own things as well. It's completely open source, which means it's free. You can get a premium version as a student, but all you need to do is show your proof of registration, but it is an incredible app to do. So in fact, the one I'm showing you here, this is my personal board that I've set up where for me, I would list the tasks I need to get done over here. So I set this all up myself, but I've included the link to this thing so you can see sort of how it looks. And you won't be able to edit it. I made sure for that. And then what I would do is then I would migrate my tasks from here to figure out, okay, what is more important? Do I need to write a thesis or do I need to go bungee jumping? Obviously, I want to go bungee jumping, but my thesis needs to take priority. So that goes into urgent. And then I can list what I need to focus on for the day. And then if someone, for example, you have a body double, so someone that's helping you stay on track, hold you accountable, then what I would do is, okay, this is what I'm working on right now. This is how much time I'm spending on it. And the way I've set it up is so that I can also start to see how much time I spend per task. So for example, I would start at 12:30, I would end at a certain time. I could then record how long it's actually taken me. And then the person knows how long my task is. So because you all have the link to my own personal board, you are very welcome to go and have a look. So the cool thing about it is it also avoids you needing to buy a license to use an Eisenhower Matrix. I've set it up so that it's already usable. And then obviously, because I have lots of ideas, I enjoy using a brain dump. So where I can just write using a whole bunch of sticky notes what I want to do. So this is a really, really, really nice app. It's multi-platform. If you have your phone, you can actually also make handwritten notes on it and include them. And because it's collaborative, you can, for those of you working in the industry, you can even extend it to that. There are people that do it. So I would strongly advise having a look at these various links just to have a look and see what it is. And for those of you that don't know what that penguin is there for, that is Linux. It's an upcoming operating system. And it is free, so it's not like Windows or anything. You don't pay a cent. Very, very cool. Oh, yes, this is a very important slide, particularly for the parents and for those of us that do not have any sense of control like myself. So first things first, YouTube ads drive me up the wall because it takes my focus away from what I'm doing. Sometimes I use YouTube as a teaching tool for myself, or in the case of if I'm watching an ASMR video or whatever for background music, I hate the adverts that come up because it stops your flow. You're in a flow and it gives you a great distraction. You've worked a long time to get to your focus. It's just not worth it. So what you can do is you can get this free plugin called uBlock Origin. So note there is a difference between uBlock and uBlock Origin. uBlock is a fake site. That's why I've given you the actual link here. This isn't going to be malware or spamware. And what this does is it stops ads. It basically just means you can watch YouTube in peace and you're not going to have pop-ups or weird media come up. For parents, I mean, I've been quite surprised by some of the ads that pop up as well. It's quite erotic and I'm like, this should not be on YouTube. This will help you control the unwanted ads, right? Because it acts as a filter between what's happening. Now, the other important thing, particularly for the homework users and the scholars, and the parents even more so, I suppose, is this one called Block Site. Now, what Block Site does is it allows you to choose which websites can and cannot be accessed. And for example, the way I've used Block Site is I developed a very strong addiction to YouTube and not so much to Facebook, but I don't have the time to be able to allow myself to potentially get distracted and stuck over there. So I've set it to actually every time I enter either YouTube or Facebook's homepage, it redirects me to Google Scholar so that I'm like, okay, I must work, let me go there. So a really cool thing for parents is you can set up a schedule for your kids. You can get a paid version or a free version. I'm quite happy with the free version because I'm not too concerned about the various sites I go to, but if you do have an addiction to something, be it, unfortunately, pornography is a very strong one, particularly within the youth at the moment, or YouTube or gaming or TikTok or you name it, it's there. Block Site is at least a very good aid for you to be able to be like, okay, if they go here, they can't, they'll be blocked, or you can redirect them to a video of a meme going, haha, nice try. So you can do a whole bunch of really, really fun things to make it interactive, but I found these to be absolutely vital. A, no one likes ads, biggest waste of time, and B, it gives the parents some control as to what their children are engaging with, especially when you need to sit down and work, particularly with young adolescents. That potential for control is not there. So it's not worth risking your attention span, considering for me, I get interrupted by about 2-3 people in one day, and that throws my entire day off because it takes me about an hour to focus again and getting to a sense of hyperfocus or flow. So very, very essential apps if you want to do productivity and you, unfortunately, like me, are tethered to your computer and the internet. Now, I think it's the second last thing, I can't quite remember, but a very important thing for ADHD minds is balance and mindfulness. We are so busy running forward, we forget that it's good to be where you are right at the moment. And I figured I'd include this because I found mindfulness practices to be very, very useful for myself. And there's a myriad of apps out there that will help, or that you can try. So the ones I'm going to present here are the ones that I find most popular, well, that I found quite useful and I enjoy the most. But yeah, it's a very, very important thing to try and just bring yourself back to a center so that you don't end up running, burning out, and also realizing that sometimes it's good to remember it's okay to be present. So this will help with this also. I mean, mindfulness practices have been shown to help with focus, with memory. Well, I suppose focus and attention are two of the same things, but also just with a general sense of dealing with the senses of overwhelm and stuff like that. So these particular apps that I'll show you are very, very useful for bringing you back to where you want to be. And then I will make an honorable mention towards the end. Now, the one I'm currently using at the moment is an app called Calm, and I enjoy it because it is cross-platform. It isn't quite available on Mac as this tries to show you, but it is available on the website, well, using the website. So the website takes you almost to like an app version of it. And I've tried a few of the meditation, mindfulness apps, and I must admit, I have found this one to be my favorite so far, because what I found with a lot of the apps, when they finished your meditation or whatever your focus session is, you do have, well, all of a sudden the music stops and you abruptly brought back to reality. So you might still be in a state of trying to wake up and you're in a very good place. What Calm does is it basically just layers over the talks to whatever background you have set. So they have a series of backgrounds you can set in terms of what it looks like and also the sounds that you can play. I recently found that in the mobile app, I can play the sound outside of the app as well. So I can continue hearing a whole bunch of things that help promote focus as needs be. It also helps with a few other things like trying to get your body to move. So in the morning, get your stretch, get your focus, as well as for those of us that do struggle to sleep. It has a sleep function where you have people like, I'm sure many, well, if you're anything like my fiance, Matthew McConaughey, reading your bedtime story is top prize. For the more conservatives, I'm sure Stephen Fry would do you well. But you have this whole bunch of things geared to trying to bring around a sense of stasis, calm, and mindfulness overall. There's also a whole bunch of other stuff you can do in the app. Unfortunately, I seem to have covered it over here, but I mean, you have one for kids, you have one for study, it helps you with work, it can help you with focus, and overall, it's just a really good all-round app. Now, there is, like most of these, unfortunately, a cost. I can't really tell you what the cost is because I'm using a gift from a friend where they were like, here's 30 days free. I'm like, shalala. So have a squiz and maybe let us know via the chat group or via Tracy if it works. Well, what the cost might be. But it does, again, work on a subscription fee. And there is the link for those for all of those that want it. Now, my first introduction to mindfulness came from Insight Time. And now Insight Time is probably very popular. In fact, it is the most popular app for being able to meditate, calm down. And it's not just a meditation app. It also sort of runs along the same line with Calm. So it's all got to do with what you like. The nice thing about this is there is also a social aspect to it, so you don't feel alone. You can also, as you'll see in most of the apps, you can set your own meditation vibe around it. You can do courses on meditating, but the biggest part or the most attractive bit for me is that it is the majority of it, or the basic functions you require to use it, are completely free. The courses where they've got people that have studied this or so on, that's where you start to pay for a premium subscription. But otherwise, you should be able to get by perfectly just using this. So it's a really, really good practice to try and include in your day. And if you're trying to use your Brilli for a routine, this is perfect for you. Last one, lots of us have probably been bombarded with ads for Headspace, particularly on Netflix. Headspace is quite cool. I have tried their 7-day free trial. Because I'm a student, I'm a bit of a cheapskate. So where I can find a good deal, I will find a good deal. Until I have an income. I promised myself when I earn more, I will happily pay. But for now, times are tough, friends are few, and COVID is real. So like all of the meditation apps, it does exactly the same stuff. It was, I think, developed by a British chap, because if you go on to Netflix, for those of you that have a sub, there is a Headspace channel where he teaches you about meditation and various techniques that you can use to get into it. So you technically are paying for it, but through your Netflix subscription that most of us already have. So you don't have to buy the app, but it is very good, very customizable, and they tend to try gear towards what you want. So are you stressed? Are you anxious? Personal growth or things like that. But it's very universal. That's why I said you choose what works for you. I don't for me, I don't like the playful childness around it. But for some others, that might be exactly what they like, because it's very stimulating. For me, I prefer the more, maybe it's the scientist in me, the more rigid approach where it's like, this is a nice picture, this is cool, I can do this and I can move forward. But again, play around with what you like, and it is very multi-platform. It's very multi-platform based, including the website as well. So have a squiz. Now, one thing we need as ADHD brains is to make up for that dopamine deficit. And I mean, I spoke to someone today, her kid, once having been hit with COVID. And for me, this is probably what caused my ADHD, along with a whole bunch of other stuff, to come forward, because I wasn't diagnosed until COVID hit, is that I could no longer exercise 2 to 3 hours a day like I was used to, because part of my thesis meant I did 10 Ks of walking every day to open and close traps. I cycled to university. I did rock climbing, competitive underwater hockey, competitive squash, all in 1 week. I don't know how I did it, but it was great fun, and it gave me the kick I need. Now, we're also coming out of this limbo-ish phase, and we need to move forward. And the best way to do that is with something that's actually going to help you get there. Instead of, in some cases, parents going, you need to go for a run, or in the cases of us going, you know, bruh, but that couch, that other episode, just one more. This will sort of help you get going. And a good way to start is just to learn to run again. So let's start with that. I thoroughly enjoy Zombies Run because it gamifies everything about running. And they also have training programs. You can also operate most of this for free. If you want the premium stuff, you can buy the premium stuff. I managed to get a nice deal because they had a 90% sale. So I bought the sub, and it was quite interesting. But what they do is they help you run at different intervals. So it's not a boring, I'm going to go out, I'm going to jog for 5Ks and come back. The way Zombies Run works is it basically pretends that you are in a zombie apocalypse. Your name is Runner 5, and you get dumped in the Able Township, which is one of the last remaining human places, I think, in America. Probably America. And the idea is that you are then going to be trained as a runner to try and help them get things like supplies and so on. Now, there is an in-game base building part. You don't really need that, but it does make it quite fun to try and see how you can level up your base. I must admit, I got a bit hooked on that. Eventually, I started running so that I could get supplies to build my base to continue the run. It was weird. And it is quite cool because you get to see your map. It does run on GPS. You don't need a smartwatch to do it. And all you need is the will factor to continue. I see we're running out of time, so I'm going to wrap up soon. So the cool thing is with Zombies Run is that it makes it interactive. It makes it fun. You aren't going to run a constant pace. In fact, when a zombie comes, you have to pick up the pace to try and avoid the zombie. So it makes it a bit more real. And you do hear them like 20 meters, 10 meters. If you don't speed up, you drop something. So you don't ever really die, but it is really fun. And for those of us that are couch potatoes, they have got a 0 to 5K training, more separate app, which I did find very helpful when I started running again. So definitely worth a look. Very, very nice game. Also, let's not forget the good old smartwatches. They are very useful because they take away the need for a whole bunch of stuff. I use my watch more as a notification thing. So if I don't want to look at stuff, I don't have to look at my phone. I get the notification on my watch and I know that I can then either respond because it's urgent, or I can ignore it and maybe get to it later or never. So never really put these out of the way. And for some of you who have Garmin or Fitbits, you can find training programs there as well. Currently, I have a Garmin, so I enjoy the fact that I'm trying to train to get to an under 20-minute 5-kilometer time. But yeah, so see what works for you, and you don't have to buy a really expensive smartwatch to do the same thing. You can get a really cheap one. All right, I think that's pretty much me done.
Thank you so much, Oliver. Thank you, Leanne. You guys were amazing. Thank you so much for all the tips and tools. And I've certainly learned a lot tonight. So I really appreciate you coming on and teaching us. And we'll have the presentation ready for everyone to, get it from us. Just let me know. And yeah, thank you once again. I look forward to seeing you all next week or next month. and take care, and yeah, all the rest.
Oh.
Thank
Oh,
you, Oliver. You are my
I've-
new ADHD hero. Sorry,
Yeah.
Tracy and Anita.
Goodness, that was
You almost.
absolutely amazing. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm happy to. So I don't have to log off now. If you have questions, I can answer
Yeah.
them.
I wanted to
as
just
we-
ask you about the O wave one. So could you stay on for me?
Love OS. Yes. How can I help you?
With O wave, the only thing I'm battling with is editing the little wedges.
Okay. How do you want to edit them?
Yeah. So like for me, let me just go into it. Because I like that visual, I like that circle. But now how do I make it specific to me?